Hi everyone, thanks so much for watching my video. Today's tutorial is on my bent stripes quilt pattern, and this is a mini version of 31 by 44 inches, but we're going to make a queen size that will be 70 by 102 inches without borders. We only need two fabrics for this quilt, so I chose this as my dark and this fabric as my light. I'll be cutting 2-inch strips from the light and 3.5-inch strips from the dark. I'll cut 48 strips of the dark and 45 strips of the light so we can make the strip sets to make our quilt top. So I'm going to sew a strip set of 7, starting and ending with the dark, alternating colors. So we'll need 4 dark strips and 3 light strips. I like to sew 2 strips together at a time, and then I'll sew those 2 sets together and keep doing that till I have the number of strips I need. When I iron, I make sure I just gently push over the fabric. I don't want to distort these stripes at all. I really take my time when I'm ironing, trying to keep the fabric as stable as possible. And to make sure that they're straight, I'll grab a yardstick and push it up against the edge to make sure there's no gaps. And when there is, just push it up a little bit. Having a flannel ironing surface really helps because the fabric will stick to the flannel. Okay, there we go. Now best press it. Sure it's completely dried, and I don't move it until it's cooled down, taking every precaution possible to keep these straight. And I want to show you that I make a mark. I don't know if you can see it, that little arrow, and that tells me what direction I have sewn this seam. It's right in the selvage, so it won't hurt nothing. So that way I'll know which way to sew my next seam, and I alternate back and forth from top to bottom to prevent fabric bowing. All my seams are going to be pressed to one direction. That'll make things easier when we go to nest the seams together to sew them. So I'll sew these 2 pairs of strips together and continue doing that until we have our 7 strip set unit. So here's my strip set of 7 strips, and now we need to measure how wide our strip set is and then cut 2 squares. So I cut 2 squares and put them right sides together and cut them on the diagonal. So the reason that I cut these on the diagonal instead of just making a line and sewing a 1/4 inch on each side is because I want my seams to match as perfect as possible when I sewed them. And then when you open it up, you have this perfect corner. These are the 4 small corners we'll be using. So now we're going to lay our squares out just like this. This is the top pair. And then the bottom pair, we do just like this. So what's going to happen is we're going to sew these 2 together and these 2 together, matching our seams so they're real nice and tight and straight. How we're going to get them straight is pin them. I like to pin when I want straight lines. And all I do is nest them together real nice and tight. And I will take my pin from the inside of the fabric to the edge. And I will put this pin right in the seam. The existing seam. So it doesn't hang over. And I'll do that to each seam. And then sew a 1/4 inch seam. And I will leave my pins in. That's why I pin them in this direction, so my guided foot won't get caught up on the pin, and I can leave them in. So I'll do this to both pairs, and we'll move on to the next step. Okay, so we have both of those pieces sewn together, and now we need to sew these two pieces together, but we need to have a strip in the middle, right here. So I sew the strip to one side, and then I'll sew it to the other side, and this is what we get. This is our diamond center, diamond shape. We'll take this unit, and we'll put it aside. Now to make our big strip units, we'll need 15 strips, starting and ending with dark again, and we'll need 4 of these strip sets. So we're going to use the same process with these big strip sets as we did for the smaller ones to make our diamond center. We're just going to put them right sides together and cut them at an angle after we square them, which I did. And I have a 33-inch by 56-inch table. And luckily the mat goes past 33 inches because I needed 35.5 inch to cut these on the diagonal. Okay, so I got this one together, pressed, and here we go. One very large corner. These will be the outside 4 corners. I'm going to set these aside as I iron and press them. So I'm getting out my center diamond piece that we put together already, and I'm going to measure the length. So however long it is how many inches we're going to need to make 2 more strip units. Mine measured 33 inches, but yours could be different, so measure. Triangles. So another strip set of 7, and we'll need that for 1 on each side of our diamond unit. So I'll sew those together and get them cut to 33 inches. I'm going to use my example piece to show you where we're going to sew. So here's our diamond, and here's where we'll be sewing the strip units we just made, 1 on each side. This is where we added the light strip in the middle of the diamond. We're going to sew these sides on, but first we have to sew a light strip along that edge to add to there. And then we can put our 7-piece unit onto it. Alternately, you could sew another light strip onto your 7-strip unit and make it an 8-strip unit to put on here. But for me, to remember start and end with dark for all the strip units is just easier. So whichever way you want to go is fine. So I sew my strip here, and now I'm going to add my 7-strip piece to that on both sides. Now, your measurements might be different than mine. I've sewn a little deep, I guess, because the littler square should have been 17-inch wide, and they ended up 16 3/4. And okay, it's a lot easier for me to show you here on this drawing. So we have the center section complete, and we have that put aside. Here's our diamond. There's our 7 strip panels that we put on. And then we also have our corners. All 4 corners we already have. And now we need to attach them together. So when I designed this, it was easier just to remove 3/4 of an inch from this edge of each corner, the center edge, to add this 1.5 inch piece in the center. It's needed for the design, otherwise this would be all dark. Our corners are here and here. And from this side of our corners, we're going to cut off 3/4 of an inch and then add a 1.5 inch strip of our light and then sew the two corners together. And that'll make one of our 3 sections for our quilt top. We'll do this to both ends. Now all of our corners are going to go away from the center and off to the side. Away from center, off to the side. All 4 of them. And we just have to sew this strip in, sew them all together, sew the 3 sections together, and we are done. So the way I keep things straight with these corners is I find and mark where this corner goes. This is a bottom right corner. I don't know why it doesn't show. Bottom right corner. And then I take it and take off the 3/4 of an inch and I put a pin straight in the edge that I just cut 3/4 of an inch off. So I know that's the edge I'm going to sew on. And then I do the same thing to the one that goes with it. I mark it, bottom left, and put a pin in it. So now I know that I have my pieces laid out in the correct orientation. And all I have to do is sew my 1.5 inch strip between these 2 cut edges. So I have sewn my 2 pieces together with the white 1.5 inch strip in between. And now all I have to do is trim off the excess. Oh, gotta open it first. I'll do that to this other edge as well. And then it's time to put the pieces together. So we have a bottom and a top and a middle. So here I have the bottom piece that I sewn together with the 1.5 inch strip here in the center. So what I like to do is take the middle section and line up the very middle to the very middle of the 1.5 inch strip that I sewn in. And then I'll pin every seam to make sure that I have everything matching nicely. So I have my middle and bottom sewn together, and I wanted to show you that the most important thing is to match your seams. You might have excess hanging over, it might be a little too short, but the most important thing is making sure the seams nest well. You can always trim the sides of the top and the bottom of the quilt. Just a little bit of a difference that it is. So I'm going to finish sewing it together and then iron it out. And here's my finished quilt top. Thanks so much for watching my video. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe.